Okay, so let us wait for someone to join. I'm just waiting some more learners to join the session. Hi Sarita, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay, okay. I think you were not present in the last session, previous session.
Yes. Good.
Okay, okay. So I think we should start the session, today's session. I was just waiting for someone to join. There are very less learners joining here. So let me start. I think you have asked some questions in the first session, I guess, regarding you were asking about some website, right? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you were
Like,
asking about some website where you can reach some heritage sites, learn about some heritage assets, heritage precincts, right? So
yeah.
there is a website called indianculture.com, right? .com or .gov.in, you can see there are various websites. You can go for the website of Archaeological Survey of India. I'm just writing in the chat box, right? You can go for the website of INTAC. Okay, you can search website of INTAC, Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage. It is okay. Another website is Indian Culture, I think .com or something like that. Okay. Another is you can go for Ministry of Tourism. Okay, you can search the website of Ministry of Tourism. You will find tremendous amount of heritage sites and information regarding all the sites, information on Bharat Darshan scheme, information on the sites covered under various schemes like Hriday scheme, Prashad, the other heritage centric schemes like you can say these circuits like both circuits, Buddhist circuits, Jain circuit, right? Hindu circuit. You can find this information on the website of Ministry of Tourism. You can also search for the website of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India. Okay. So that is Mahua, MOHUA. You can search for various other sites of Mahua. There are few NGOs. One NGO I have listed above, that is the INTAC. There is Aga Khan Trust type of thing. You can search there also, right? You can search on the website of UNESCO. They have the details of all the World Heritage sites, whether it is built heritage, that is the cultural heritage, or the natural heritage, or even the mixed heritage. They have all the details of the heritage sites of India, and of course it have the heritage assets and the details of other countries as well, but you can find the Indian assets there. Okay. So you can search for the website of India. So now I think there are 2 to 3 people, so 4 people are there. So let us formally start this session. So good evening everyone. So this is the third. Lakshmi, am I audible to you? You can even write in the chat box. Okay. So good evening everyone. So this is the third session of the third week for the NPTEL course Architectural Conservation and Historic Preservation, the course code NOC 22AR08. The course coordinator for this course is Professor Sangamitra Basu Madam of Department of Architecture and Regional Planning, IIT Kharagpur, and myself Abhishek Kumar, a PMRF scholar at Department of Architecture and Planning, IIT Roorkee. So this is the third week session. So let's start. Okay, is my screen visible to everyone? Please respond. Is my screen visible? Sarita, you can say if my screen is visible. You can unmute yourself. Hello. Okay, so let's proceed. So topics covered in this session in the previous week. Uh, the topics covered would be the approaches for managing and rehabilitating heritage properties. So these were the topics covered in the previous week. You might have learned about these all approaches in the previous week lectures by Sangamitra ma'am. So these are indirect conservation, preservation, consolidation, restoration, adaptive reuse, rehabilitation, reproduction, and reconstruction. So Sarita and Mahalakshmi, have you learned about these approaches? Hello. At least say, am I audible or not?
The first four, I only covered the first four.
The first four were covered in the previous week, right? That is indirect conservation, preservation, consolidation, and restoration, right? Okay. So these were covered in the previous week. So let us start one by one. So the first is indirect conservation. So what is indirect conservation? It is protecting the cultural property by controlling the adjacent environment, right? We do not act directly on the heritage asset. We just control the adjacent environment around it. So it is preventing agents of decay and damage from becoming active. Like we just prevent the agents from becoming active around the heritage assets, and it means the sound maintenance procedure based on regular inception guidelines of the conservation. So this is called indirect conservation. You might have studied about the example of Stonehenge of England. So that is a perfect example of indirect conservation. The second is preservation. So preservation means maintaining a place in its existing state and retarding deterioration, right? So preservation means maintaining a place in its existing state and retarding deterioration. Okay, preservation deals directly with cultural property, and repair must be carried out when necessary to prevent further decay. So in preservation, we maintain a place in its existing state. We do the restoration preservation work to achieve its existing state and retard the deterioration, means to stop the deterioration and slow down the deterioration. And it preservation deals directly with the cultural properties, and repair must be, so there are various processes, the repair is one of them, so it must be carried out when necessary to prevent further decay. Okay. Okay, so the third is consolidation. So consolidation is physical addition or application of adhesive or supportive material. It can be adhesive or supportive material or some structural material into the actual fabric of the cultural property. So here the cultural property is being added with the supportive material in order to ensure a continued durability or structural integrity. So here what we do, we add adhesive for the strengthen the structure, we can say, and the supportive materials like various binding materials. We can also use scaffoldings and all to just support the structure from beneath and top of the cultural property in order to ensure the continued durability of the structural integrity. The fourth is restoration. So this is the well known concept, well known approaches. So this is what restoration mean is to revive the original concept of the object or the cultural property. So this is the definition given by Filden Bernard in 1989. So it means to revive the original concept of the object and the cultural property. Returning, the second is that it is returning a place to a known earlier state by removing accretions or by reassembling existing element without the introduction of new material. So here what we do not introduce a new material, we just return the place into its original state by removing the accretion or by reassembling the existing elements. So you might have gone through various sites where sites and ensembles where the structure has been damaged and just thrown here and there. So what we do, like where there are various stone structures made of stone boulders and all, so just we assemble those structures and try to encompass and try to maintain the original integrity and return that place into its original form. Like you might have heard about a temple in Kashmir. I will give you example in the next week. So that has been that is a perfect example of restoration, and it respects the contribution of all period of history, means all the stages of history and the physical development throughout the history, and any later addition that can be considered as a historic document must be preserved. The fifth is adaptive reuse. It is also a well known concept and rehabilitation. The best way to preserve a building is to keep them in use, which may involve mise en valeur, right? The best way to preserve a building is to keep them involved. Like there are various example of adaptive reuse, like some forts nahi, many forts in Rajasthan has been now acting as museums or as a heritage hotels. So they are just forced to be in use, they are just kept to be in use, so that its strength is maintained, its integrity is maintained, and its authenticity is maintained. So that is adaptive reuse. Adaptive reuse often is the only way that historic and aesthetic values, so the historic and aesthetic value can be saved economically and historic buildings brought up to the contemporary standards. Okay, the sixth is reproduction. Reproduction entails copying an extant artifact, often in order to replace some missing or decayed part of the heritage structures, generally decorative, to maintain its aesthetics harmony. So here what we do, we just copy some elements of that structure, generally the decorative elements, the decorative pieces, the cornices, and to maintain the and replace with the decayed part, just to maintain its aesthetic harmony. If valuable cultural property is being damaged irretrievably or is threatened by its environment, it may have to be moved to a more suitable environment and a reproduction substituted in order to maintain the unity of site or building. Number 7th is reconstruction. So reconstruction, by the name you can see, it's a reconstruction of the historic buildings and the historic centers using new materials may be necessitated by disasters such as fire, earthquake, or war, right? So these are, reconstruction is used where the heritage structures or the heritage buildings has been dilapidated or damaged by the disasters such as earthquake, fire, or war, and it must be based upon the accurate documentation and evidence, never upon conjecture. Like reconstruction of any structures should have a proper documentation as a evidence, as a background. We don't have to just imagine and just create something new. So that is not an ethical way of reconstruction. Okay. Other topics covered in the previous week through the lectures were ethics of conservation. So you might have learned about great influence on the idea of conservation ethics by John Ruskin. Others are conservation, thus in practice, that focuses on the preservation of cultural knowledge in object, the authentication of which creates an inseparable bond between the conservator and the conserved object, right? And the conservation is thus established as both ethical and scientific. The other topics covered were evolution of heritage conservation. So how heritage conservation evolved through the ages. So these were the topics covered in the previous week through the lectures. So let us revise one by one. So there are various approaches for managing and rehabilitating of the heritage properties. These are the indirect conservation, preservation, consolidation, restoration, adaptive reuse, rehabilitation, reproduction, and reconstruction, right? So indirect conservation is just controlling the adjacent environment. Preservation is maintaining the authenticity of the place and existing state and retard the deterioration and slow down its deterioration. The third is consolidation. Here the physical application is used. We have to support the structure from further damage by use of adhesive or the scaffolding, and many ways are there. Restoration is the common concept, that which is to revive the original concept of the object or the cultural property and returning a place into the earlier known state. The fifth is adaptive reuse, which is the best way to preserve a building is to keep them in use. The sixth is reproduction. Reproduction entails copying. Okay, someone is raising hand. Okay, so reproduction is Reproduction entails copying an extant artifact, often in order to replace some missing or decayed parts. Here, the decayed parts are replaced by some artifact or decorative pieces to maintain its aesthetic value and the harmony. The seventh is reconstruction, where the reconstruction of historic building and historic centers are used by new materials which may be necessitated by the disaster. Means here the buildings or structures or the historic structures which has been damaged or dilapidated by the structure by the disasters like fire, earthquake or war. Here the reconstruction is used, but it should be based on the accurate documentation and evidence. Okay, so other topics were ethics of conservation and evolution of heritage conservation. You might have learned about these all. So let's move to the assignment third of session 2020 run. Okay, so the assignment third, so this is the session 2020 run assignment. This is not the assignment of this year. So let's move one by one through the assignments. So question number one. Question number one, who among the following gave the importance of age value and unity of feelings in the idea of conservation ethics? Anybody? Mahalakshmi or Sarita? Anybody from the learners? Who among the following gave the importance of age value? It is asking about the age value or the unity of feelings. Who gave the importance of age value and the unity of feelings in the idea of conservation ethics? Means the age value and unity of feelings are being used in the conservation ethics. So who among them have gave the idea of that? Was that John Marshall, James Burgess, John Ruskin or Alexander Cunningham? Any guesses? Sarita and Mahalakshmi, I think we should be interactive, right? आप कुछ भी बोलो, we can just discuss on that. Hello? Hello? Anyway, the answer is John Ruskin. So John Ruskin gave the idea, like gave the importance of, gave the importance of age value and unity of feelings in the idea of conservation ethics. Question number 2. Which of the following organizations' primary task is to train and inform new generations of professionals and general public with an interest in heritage? Like the question is asking which of the following organizations. So the following 4 options are the name of organizations whose primary task is to train and inform new generations of professionals and the general public with an interest in heritage. Okay, so the first is UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. The second is ICCROM, International Center for the Study of Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property. The fourth is ICOMOS, International Council on Monuments and Sites. And the fourth is IUCN, International Union for the Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Okay, so UNESCO, you all are knowing what is UNESCO. ICCROM is an international center for the study, so you can have an idea from here, for the study of preservation and restoration of cultural property. ICOMOS deals with the monuments and sites, and IUCN deals with the nature and natural resources. So answers from the learners.
B.
ICCROM.
ICCROM.
You are talking about ICCROM, right? Mahalakshmi? Hello? Okay, so answer is ICCROM, right? So ICCROM deals with, so by the name, as name appears, International Center for the Study of Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property. So study of the preservation and restoration of cultural property. So the 4 aims of ICCROM we can say, or the principles of ICCROM we can say, or the objectives of ICCROM we can say, on which it works is training, information, research, cooperation and advocacy. Okay, so ICAROM deals with training in the field of heritage, training of the people, training of the personnel who have the interest in heritage, or in disseminating the information, publicizing information about heritage, research on topics related to heritage, cooperation between the various organizations dealing with heritage, and advocacy on the topics related to heritage. So the answer is ICAROM. Okay, question number 3. Which is not a standard ethics of conservation? Which is not a standard ethics of conservation? Options are: the intervention must ensure respect for aesthetical, historical and physical integrity of the cultural property. Okay, so I think this is a positive. It should be the standard ethics of conservation. The intervention must result in maximum possible use of new material. It is talking about it result in maximum possible use of new material. Okay, the third is intervention should be reversible. The intervention should be reversible. And the fourth is historic evidence must not be destroyed, falsified or removed. Okay, so which is not the standard ethics of conservation? Sarita?
B. B.
The intervention must result in maximum possible use of new material, right? Correct. So it is answer number B. Means it is advocating about the maximum possible use of new material, but this is not the concept of conservation, right? So the answer is B. Coming to question number 4. Which of the following is not true for adaptive reuse? Which of the following is not true for adaptive reuse? Adaptive reuse you have learned, like taking the use of the building, so it is just to keep that building in use to prevent further deterioration. So the options are: developing structurally sound buildings for economically viable new use, no or minimal impact on cultural significance of the building, change of place to suit the existing use, at times done for protecting historically significant buildings from demolition. So what is not true for adaptive reuse?
C.
Change of place to suit the existing use. Okay, correct. Option number A is dealing with developing structurally sound buildings for economically viable new use. Correct, it is being used. No or minimal impact on cultural significance of the building. So it should be the aim of conservation or the adaptive reuse. There should not be impact on the cultural significance. And the fourth is at times done for protecting historically significant buildings from demolition. Correct. There are various examples, like like the fort, you can see there are various examples. To prevent that from demolition, it has been converted to museums, or it has been being used as heritage hotels. There is a building in Patna here, Parivahan Bhavan. Okay, so that is being used as an office by the government. So just to prevent it from demolition, it can be reused in some or the other way. Okay, so question number 5. Which of the following is not an example of rehabilitation method of intervention? Okay, so which of the following is not an example? Somnath, Kochi Mujrish, or I think how to pronounce, Tate Modern London, or Tamil Quarter Puducherry? Which is not an example of rehabilitation? Somnath Temple. Okay, what do you understand by rehabilitation, and how it is not an example of rehabilitation? And what approaches it showcase? Yes, Sarita?
It's used as a temple. It's functional as a temple, right?
Yeah, it functions as a temple, but it is asking about which is not an example of rehabilitation. So what it's a showcase, which type of approach is used in Somnath Temple? Okay, see, the answer is correct. Somnath Temple, and Somnath Temple is an example of reconstruction. Okay, you might have heard that Somnath Temple has been damaged at various times by various rulers, Mughals and all. Okay, so it is an example of reconstruction. And what rehabilitation is, it is defined as the act or process of making possible a compatible use for a property through repairs, alterations and additions while preserving those portions or features which convey its historical, cultural or architectural values. Okay, but in case of Somnath it is not so. It has been totally damaged at various times through the history, through the historic layers. So it is an example of reconstruction. And for reconstruction, you have means we have studied earlier, for reconstruction a proper documentation and evidence background should be there, and from there this structure has been again reconstructed. So the answer is Somnath Temple, Gujarat. Okay, question number 6. Which of the following intervention method is closely related to the word mise en valeur? Or we can pronounce, I think, mise en valeur. So what is the answer? Is it rehabilitation, adaptive reuse, or is it preservation, consolidation, or reproduction, reconstruction? I think no guesses will work here. Agar pata ho to then only we can answer. So which of the following intervention methods is closely related to the word mise en valeur? I think the answer is A, correct. Rehabilitation, adaptive reuse. Okay, question number 7. Which of the following is crucial to develop competence in heritage conservation? Understand the question. Which of the following is crucial to develop competence in heritage conservation? Options are recognizing heritage resources within its context, okay, understanding and applying international doctrines, collaborate in conservation management, or all of the above. So which is crucial to develop competence in heritage conservation? To develop competence in heritage conservation or management, which of the following is crucial part or the crucial aspect? Is it recognizing heritage resources within its context, or understanding and applying the international doctrines, or collaborate in conservation management, or all of the above? I think all of the above. Correct. All of the above. So we have to, as we go through the options, recognizing heritage resources within its context. It is very important to recognize the heritage resource for any conservation process. First and foremost is the recognition of heritage, listing and documentation of heritage, and proper documentation of heritage to have a background to study. The second is understanding and applying international doctrines, the international processes, methods, procedures, and various international doctrines, various charters are there. So that is an important aspect. We should understand and apply those. Collaborate in conservation management. Collaboration here means collaboration with various agencies, collaboration with various organizations or NGOs, collaboration with government, private sector, PPP model, collaboration of various aspects. Okay, so answer is all of the above. Correct. Okay, question number 8. Which of the following approaches was developed by emphasizing material authenticity and documentary value of the monument? Okay, I think I should reiterate the question. Which of the following approaches was developed by emphasizing material authenticity and documentary value of the monument? Is it romantic restoration, traditional approach, modern conservation theory, or sustainable approach? The answer to this, I think, is romantic. Any guesses? Means the type of approach where the material authenticity should be emphasized and the documentary value of the monuments, means proper documentation and evidence of the monument should be there. So what is that type of approach, we can say? Is it traditional approach, romantic approach, means romantic restoration approach, or the modern conservation theory, or the sustainable approach? Answers from the learners.
Traditional approach, B.
Okay, how? let's jump to the answer. It is romantic restoration, as I say. So it is asking about, you might have learned about this, or you may be learning about this in this week. So in romantic restoration, more emphasis is given on the material authenticity, the type of materials, the quality of the materials, and the type of materials which were used and which have been used in that structure or the heritage property. So emphasis is given on that, and the documentary value of the monument is given due care. Okay. Now question number 9. Match the type of conservation measures adopted mentioned in the right hand side column with the project in the left hand side column. Okay. So means the right side column is talking about the type of measures, means type of approaches, and in the left hand side the project, like the site is given. Okay, like Bodhnath Stupa, Kathmandu, Nepal. Okay, Ishkhani Monastery, Artvin, territory of Turkey, Rose Window, York Minster, Shahid Bhavan, IIT Kharagpur, and Taj Mahal, Agra. So means it is asking which type of approaches has been used in these all projects. So any guesses? Mahalakshmi, Sanrachana, Sarita. So which type of approach or the measures were used in Bodhnath Stupa in Kathmandu, or the monastery Artvin in Turkey, or the Rose Window, York Minster, Shahid Bhavan in Kharagpur, or Taj Mahal? I think we should have a guess here also. Like the approaches are restoration, rehabilitation, consolidation, reconstruction, reproduction, and preservation. So what do you think about the Taj Mahal? Let's move one by one, of which we know at least. What you think of Taj Mahal? Which type of approach might have been used here or is being used here? Is it the example of restoration, rehabilitation, consolidation, reconstruction, reproduction, or preservation?
Restoration or preservation?
Okay. I think we should move to the answer. Okay, so let's move one by one. So the answer is B. Okay, so for the project A, the approach is fourth, means for Bodhnath Stupa, Kathmandu, Nepal, reconstruction. Like the first picture you can see, the very first picture from the left hand side you can see, that is the photograph of Bodhnath Stupa in Kathmandu. So it is an example of reconstruction. The B is monastery of Artvin in Turkey. So this is the example of restoration. Okay, so this is the example of restoration. The third is Rose Window of York Minster. Okay, so it is an example of consolidation. Okay, so means in Rose Window, York Minster, consolidation means the adhesive has been used, the structural member has been strengthened, and the additional structural members have been used here to strengthen the original structure, or the adhesive, the material components has been used in this Rose Window. The third is Shahid Bhavan of IIT Kharagpur. Okay, so here this is the example of rehabilitation. Okay, and the fifth, Taj Mahal of Agra, it is an example, as you said, preservation. Correct, the answer is preservation. So let's start. The Bodhnath Stupa of Kathmandu is an example of reconstruction. The second, the monastery of Artvin, Turkey, is an example of restoration. The Rose Window of York Minster is an example of consolidation. The fourth, Shahid Bhavan of IIT Kharagpur is an example of, the Shahid Bhavan is an example of rehabilitation, and the fifth, the Taj Mahal of Agra, is an example of preservation. Okay, question number 10. Which of the following was not predominant in Romantic Restoration period in the history of conservation movement? Is it art, nostalgia, or the national heritage, or the use value, means the use value of the structure, or the artistic value of the structure, or the nostalgia the structure has created, or the national, or it is a national heritage or not. So which is not predominant in the romantic restoration.
Use value?
Correct. So use value were not mostly predominant in the romantic restoration period in the history of conservation movement. Okay, so all the question has been discussed one by one. So any questions from the learners, or if we want to discuss anything more? Yeah. So what type of approaches you all have learned till now? Have all been covered, all the 7? Indirect conservation, preservation, consolidation, restoration, adaptive reuse or rehabilitation, reproduction or reconstruction. Yes, Sarita, all has been covered in the previous lectures, or is it being covered in this week also?
I have not completed this week's portion actually.
This week means the previous week you are telling.
Yes.
Okay. So I think the assignment part is due by this Wednesday, na? So I think you should complete that. You should complete that by before Wednesday. So these were covered in this week. You might have learned about the topic, the various conservation methods. So no need of reiterating it all. The indirect one, the preservation, consolidation, adaptive reuse and rehabilitation, again the reproduction part, reconstruction, ethics you might have learned. The ethics of conservation will be discussed in this week in detail, so we will cover this part in the next week in our live session, and the evolution of heritage conservation will also be covered in the next week of the live session. So these were the questions which have been discussed. Okay, so any questions from all of you? Anybody? Have you visited Taj Mahal, Sarita, or Mahalakshmi? Yeah. Have you visited out there? If you have visited, you might have gone to the nearby area which is called the Tajganj area, which is the old historic core of Agra, near Taj Mahal, on the banks of river Yamuna. Anybody? No one. Okay. So okay then, any questions, or do we need to discuss on any other topic or any questions? Yeah, Mahalakshmi, Sanrachna, Sarita, anybody?
Just a minute, huh?
Okay.
In the third question, hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, which is not a standard ethics of conservation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the intervention should be reversible.
Yeah.
Uh,
So what that means?
whatever. But then sometimes when you say that you find a need to some addition was done which was not done sympathetically to the structure,
Heritage
and you had
structure.
to remove that.
Okay.
Then how can you
So that is why it is telling, na. So it should be, I think, that the question is not
reversible.
it. The question is which is not a standard ethics. Okay. So the
Yes.
intervention
So
should
that-
be reversible. This is a standard ethics for the conservation.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is a standard ethics, but how can it always be reversible?
No,
If
it should not always be reversible, but if and when required, it should be done. So it should be done in such a case that it can be reversible. Okay, it should not be done in such a case that it is not reversible at all. So that is why it is said, so that is why it is the standard ethics of conservation, that the whatever the additions or the alteration we do to the heritage structures, it should not be permanently done, or in that way that it should not be reversible. If and when it is required to come back to the original position, there should always be a chance for that. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the alteration should be in that manner that there should be a chance to reverse back to the original state if and when required. So this is the standard ethics for that. And if such structure, if such alteration is done where there is no chance of reverting back, where there is no chance of coming back, so that is not a standard ethics na. Like we have done such alteration जो कि उसके हेरिटेज स्ट्रक्चर और द कल्चरल वैल्यू को वो डिग्रेड कर दिया, और हमारे पास वो भी चॉइस नहीं है कि हम उसको पीछे हट सकें, है ना, हम ओरिजिनल पोजीशन में जा सकें. सो दैट इज़ नॉट अ स्टैंडर्ड एथिक्स. Okay, someone is joined.
Okay.
Okay, someone has joined at very end. Hello, Samrat Chaudhary.
Yes, I was in my official meeting, so I just ended and rushed in. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome to the session. But we have came to the end of the session. Okay. Anyway, so what we have all discussed here is, let me just go for him. So we have discussed about the approaches for managing and rehabilitating heritage properties. You might have all discussed about or learned about these in the previous week through the lectures of Basu madam. So these are the various approaches and the measures for the rehabilitation and managing the heritage properties. So these are the indirect conservation method, preservation, consolidation, restoration, adaptive reuse or rehabilitation, reproduction, reconstruction. So we have gone through the definitions of that, the consolidation, restoration, adaptive reuse and reconstruction. We have also learned about the ethics of conservation. You have learned about this in details in the previous week. Evolution of heritage conservation will be dealt in the next week. Okay, so Samrat, we have also discussed about the questions, discussed on the questions of assignment 3rd of session 2020. It is, I think, of the January session 2020. So these were the questions which we have discussed. I think you have missed it all. Anyway, so I was just asking. Okay, I think we should just go through this question for Samrat. Okay. For Samrat, question number 6 is for you. Which of the following intervention method is closely related to the word mise en valeur? Okay, if you have learned in the previous week, you might be knowing about this. If you have learned,
I think I can't recollect, but
correct. It is A, rehabilitation and adaptive reuse. Okay, so the answer is correct. Okay, let's go to the question number 9. So it is just match the columns type of answer. Okay, and the left hand side, the name of projects and the name of the heritage sites are given, and in the right hand side, the approaches and the measures are given. So you have to match the column which type of approach has been used, okay, in which project. Okay, for Bodhnath Stupa, Kathmandu, what has been used there. In the monastery of Artvin, Turkey, what approach or what measure were used. In Rose Window, York Minster, what was the used. Shahid Bhavan, IIT Kharagpur and Taj Mahal. Okay, I'm just going through few questions. Okay, so let's go to the answer.
But Shahid. Here it is.
Yeah, sorry.
Here you have. Okay, here you have 5 monuments and answer में 6 है ना, तो इसमें से 5 लेना है.
इन्हीं 5 ही लेना है. Anyway.
Okay.
I think जो सबसे आसान है ना, let's start with Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal is basically a preservation, I think.
Correct. No, सही है. शहीद भवन, IIT खड़गपुर. So if we go through the options, right, you are talking about the Taj Mahal Agra is an example of preservation, right, means
Yeah.
E6. So E6 is in option B, correct?
E4 दिया हुआ है तो 6 तो नहीं दिया.
Sorry.
E is 6 you said.
हाँ, तो in option B E is 6.
हाँ, E is 6 correct.
Yeah.
So that is I think then.
So that is the answer.
Okay.
Okay. So that is the answer we know. In option B
Yeah.
it is the answer. So for option for A, Bodhnath Stupa of Kathmandu, it is the example of reconstruction. Okay.
Yes.
Monastery of Artvin, territory of Turkey, it is the example of restoration. Then the third is Rose Window, York Minster, it is the example of consolidation. We have learned about these approaches in detail before coming.
Yes.
So okay, and then the
Yeah,
D,
okay.
Shahid Bhavan is an example. Shahid Bhavan Kharagpur is an example of. Okay, wait, someone is wait. Yeah, Shahid Bhavan of IIT Kharagpur is an example of rehabilitation or adaptive reuse. Okay, and Taj Mahal, of course, is the
Okay.
example of preservation. Okay, so these are the options
Yeah.
for
Okay.
that. So I think we have covered all the part in details and all the questions has been discussed. So Satupa Jyoti is there. I think you have joined a bit late. A bit late nahi, काफी late. Okay, so okay then. Thank you everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's see in the meeting.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
We will meet in the. Yeah, Satupa. Yeah. Okay. You have raised your hand.
Yes, it is I returned back from office at 7 o'clock, so it is difficult to join this discussion session.
Okay. I think you have joined in the first or
That's why
second
I am not
week,
able
right?
to.
Yeah,
Yes,
if you
yes, yes.
can,
That
if
is
you
the
can,
late hour.
There is another
yeah, if you
option
can
for
tweak
that.
the timing to 7 to 8.
No, I can't do that because
Yeah,
it is
7
being
to
done
8
by
minutes.
NPTEL team. Okay. I personally at
Okay.
my end I can't do because it is being done by the NPTEL team. The only thing you can do is you can you can go through my YouTube link. There all the videos are being uploaded. Okay. So you can go through that video on the YouTube.
Okay, which link?
I will post that in the I think
Okay,
in the discussion forum. Okay, on the NPTEL SWAYAM portal. Okay, I will post out there. So
Okay, okay,
in
that's
that
fine.
because that is the YouTube link where you can find all the videos of all the weeks of mine of the live session. So you can check out there, but it will be more better if all of you joins the live session because that will be more interactive, and for me there will be learners and there will be someone in the audience. Okay, for interaction, because there are very less learners joining the live session. There was quite a number of learners in the first week, then the numbers are decreasing, don't know why. But anyway, you can check out the YouTube link. I will post that link in the that discussion forum of the NPTEL. Okay, any question from you all?
Thank you. No, I want to learn about I can't join with this session, so I missed it. So let me go through that YouTube link.
Yeah. Okay. No issues. Or you can join from the next week a bit early to. That will not be an issue. ठीक है ना?
And I have a question that what is the difference between the preservation and restoration?
Okay.
Is there what is the difference? Preservation and restoration.
Okay. We have all discussed in this part. Okay, let me go for you. See, what is preservation? Preservation means maintaining a place in its existing state and retarding deterioration. Okay, तो हम लोग को उस place को maintain करना है in the existing state. ठीक है, और फ्यूचर फर्दर डिटेरियोरेशन फर्दर डीके को रिटार्ड करना है, स्टॉप करना है. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड प्रिजर्वेशन. ओके, एंड इट डील्स डायरेक्टली विद द कल्चरल प्रॉपर्टी. और फर्दर डीके को रोकना है. उसके लिए जो रिपेयर किए जाते हैं, जो भी अप्रोचेज अपनाए जाते हैं, दैट इज द प्रोसेस ऑफ प्रिजर्वेशन. ओके
Okay.
एंड द सेकंड अप्रोच व्हाट यू टोल्ड, restoration.
restoration.
Okay, so restoration, see, restoration is returning a place to a known earlier state. ठीक है, प्रिजर्वेशन में क्या होता है कि अभी जो स्टेट है उसी स्टेट में हमें उस स्ट्रक्चर को रखना है, ठीक है, और फ्यूचर फर्दर डीके को रोकना है, उसके लिए जो भी हमें रिपेयर
करना भी होगा,
रिपेयर करना भी होगा, एग्जैक्टली
मतलब
हम लोग तो डिस्कस किए ना,
मतलब
रिपेयर
कुछ टूट गया तो उसको रिपेयर करना भी होगा
रिपेयर करना भी
प्रिजर्वेशन में।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी, रिपेयर करना भी होगा, ये कह रहा है ना। तो पॉइंट नंबर 3, रिपेयर मस्ट बी कैरिड आउट व्हेन नेसेसरी टू प्रिवेंट फर्दर डीके, ठीक है, फर्दर डीके को रोकने के लिए हमें रिपेयर भी करना होगा, ओके। एंड रेस्टोरेशन क्या है ना कि हमें वो सब अप्रोचेज अपनाने हैं टू रिटर्न दैट प्लेस इन द ओरिजिनल कंडीशन, ओके, by removing the accretions or by reassembling the existing elements without introduction of new materials. आपने कई, this is the this is the definition given by Burra Charter, and by Field and Bernard, the definition is to revive the original concept of the object or the cultural property. So what that means is, आपने कई बार देखा होगा कोई हेरिटेज स्ट्रक्चर है जिसे डिमोलिश कर दिया गया है, ओके, और उसके सारे पार्ट्स
उसको
जो
तो
है,
रिकंस्ट्रक्शन किया जाएगा,
नहीं,
उसको तो रिकंस्ट्रक्शन किया जाएगा।
नहीं, उस रिकंस्ट्रक्शन वो होता है ना जिसका बेस बस हो और ऊपर का कुछ हो ही ना, ठीक है। रेस्टोरेशन क्या होता है ना जिसमें मिनिमल चेंजेस करके कुछ एलिमेंट्स उसमें अप्लाई करके, ठीक है, उसको ओरिजिनल अर्लियर स्टेट में हम लोग ले जाएं, दैट इज रेस्टोरेशन, ठीक है,
रेस्टोरेशन,
या। and you are talking about reconstruction of a historic building, and the historic centers are using new materials which may be necessitated by the disaster. जो heritage buildings थ्रू डिज़ास्टर और फायर और अर्थक्वेक और वॉर से डिमोलिश हो गए हैं उसे हम लोग रिकंस्ट्रक्ट करेंगे, ठीक है। और फॉर रिकंस्ट्रक्शन देयर शुड बी एक्यूरेट डॉक्यूमेंटेशन ऑफ दैट स्ट्रक्चर, एंड देयर शुड बी प्रॉपर एविडेंशियल प्रूफ and proper documentation, so that the reconstruction is just not a vague thing, okay. It should not never be upon conjecture, वो कुछ भी इमेजिनेशन पे नहीं होना है, उसके लिए प्रॉपर डॉक्यूमेंटेशन होना चाहिए, ठीक है। अगर ये इस
जैसे
तरह से,
में हुआ था,
हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी, अगर ये इस तरह से था तो उसी को हमें रेप्लिकेट करना है, ना कि कुछ भी इमेजिनेशन लगा के और कुछ भी बना दे, ठीक है ना। लाइक यू माइट हैव लर्नड अबाउट नालंदा यूनिवर्सिटी, ठीक है, द रूइंस ऑफ नालंदा, उसका आजकल ना काफ़ी सारा रिकंस्ट्रक्शन इमेजेस आ रहे हैं, ठीक है, बट दिस इज़ नॉट बीइंग डन बिकॉज दैट इज़ जस्ट इमेजिनेशन ऑफ द historians and imagination of the, you can say, the artists, ठीक है। I will show that image in the next week. So they are showing the reconstruction image of Nalanda University, but that is not a proper practice of reconstruction, ठीक है। There should be
and Bamiyan Buddha also a reconstruction project.
Which one?
Bamiyan Buddha.
Bamiyan Buddha. Okay. Of Afghanistan, you were saying?
Yes.
Okay. It may be. So these approaches we have learned here. So if time will permit, we will also go through these approaches in the next week with a few more examples just to cover that. Okay, and hope you all join in the next week also. ठीक है? Okay then. Okay. Thank you everyone. Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. Bye bye. Good night. Good night. Bye bye. So I'm just ending the session. Bye.